This coin could be worth more than your entire retirement. This single penny could be sitting in your pocket right now, and its value has shocked collectors across America. I'm talking about a simple-looking copper coin dated 1950 with a tiny D beneath the date, a coin that, in the right condition, has sold for, worth 1,000,000 美元 or more. Sounds impossible, right? A penny. 1 cent. Something most people toss into tip jars, leave in cup holders, or drop between couch cushions. But that's exactly how some of the most valuable coins in America are found hiding in plain sight. Imagine reaching into your pocket after buying a coffee. You pull out a handful of change. Quarters. Dimes. A few nickels. And a couple of old brown pennies, darker than the others. You almost don't notice it. The worn wheat stalks on the back. The soft copper glow that looks different from the shiny zinc pennies made today. You flip it over. 1950, and right under the date, a tiny D. Most people would spend it without thinking twice, but some people didn't. There's a story collectors still talk about a man in the Midwest who bought a roll of pennies from his local bank just for fun. He liked the hunt. The thrill of possibility. He sat at his kitchen table, cracking open the paper roll, the smell of old copper rising as the coins spilled out. And there it was. A 1950 D Lincoln wheat cent in stunning condition, bright, blazing red, as if it had been frozen in time. He thought maybe it was worth a few bucks months later, after grading an auction. That 1 cent coin brought in thousands. So what makes the 1950 D wheat penny so special? To understand that, we need to travel back to Denver in 1950. The United States Mint was still striking the classic Lincoln wheat design, the SIN design introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the front, Lincoln's calm profile faces right. On the back, 2 elegant wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. By 1950, America was booming after World War II. Coins were being produced in massive numbers. In Denver alone, over 334 million Lincoln cents were struck that year. That doesn't sound rare at all. In fact, by mintage numbers alone, the 1950 D isn't scarce. But here's where things get interesting. Most of those 33 million coins entered circulation immediately. They were tossed into registers, bank vaults, lunch counters, and vending machines. They jingled in soldiers' pockets. They paid for milk, newspapers, and movie tickets. They wore down. They scratched. They darkened. They lost their original fiery red luster. Today, the vast majority of 1950 D pennies you'll find are heavily circulated. Brown. Worn smooth across Lincoln's cheek and jawline. In that condition, they're worth maybe a few cents to a couple of dollars, but the real money, the kind that shocks collectors, lies in condition. If you find a 1950 D that still glows with original mint red luster, what collectors call RD for red, that's when the value starts climbing fast. In top mint state grades, coins that look like they were struck yesterday, with blazing copper surfaces and razor-sharp details in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalk lines, that's when auctions get intense. One pristine 1950 D graded MS-67 red sold for over 1,000,000 美元. Let that sink in. A penny. Worth more than some used cars. More than many people's savings accounts. And here's the twist: most people don't realize these coins were hoarded in 1950. Collectors were already paying attention to mint marks. The little D under the date tells you it was struck at the Denver Mint. And when earlier key dates like the famous 1909 SVB started skyrocketing in value, people began saving rolls of new pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. So thousands of 1950 D cents were pulled from circulation early and stored away in bank rolls and cigar boxes. That's why high-grade examples exist today. But here's the part that creates opportunity: many of those stored coins weren't preserved perfectly. Over decades, heat, humidity, and improper storage turned bright red copper into spotted, streaked, or partially brown surfaces. Only a tiny fraction survived with flawless color and surfaces clean enough to earn the highest grades. And grading matters more than most people think. A 1950 D in MS-67 red might be worth a few $100s. In MS-66 red, maybe 1,000 or more. But jump to MS-67 red, and the price can multiply dramatically. One small tick mark, one faint carbon spot, one tiny scratch invisible to the naked eye, and the value can drop by thousands. Now let's talk about something even more exciting: mint errors. Because sometimes, it's not just the condition. It's what went wrong at the mint. There are 1950 D pennies known with striking errors. Off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area. Imagine holding a penny where Lincoln's face is shifted dramatically to one side, the date still visible but the rim uneven and dramatic. These can sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on how extreme and eye-catching the errors. There are also repunched mint marks. In 1950, mint marks were punched into the dice by hand. That means the small d under the date could sometimes be struck more than once in slightly different positions. Under magnification, you might see a shadow-like doubling around the d. To most people, it's invisible. To collectors, it's a treasure hunt, and then there's doubling. Not the dramatic, obvious kind like the legendary 1955 double die, but subtle hop doubling that affects the lettering or date. If you look closely at Liberty or the numbers in 1950 and see extra thickness or slight separation, that can be a clue. Most examples are minor, but the right variety in high grade. That's when serious money enters the room. Picture this and a estate sale in Ohio. A dusty wooden box filled with old coins inherited from a grandfather who worked at a bank in the 1950s. Inside, several paper-wrapped rolls labeled 1950D. The family thought they were just sentimental keepsakes. One roll was opened and sent for grading. Multiple coins came back in gem mint state red. One nearly flawless. The auction house listed it with dramatic photos blazing copper, almost glowing under the lights, every detail crisp. Bidding opened modestly. Then it climbed. And climbed. And climbed. When the hammer fell, it had reached over 100 million. That's the power of condition rarity. And here's something that might surprise you even more. 1950D wheat pennies are still found in circulation today. Not often. But it happens every time someone cracks open an old piggy bank. Every time a coin jar gets dumped into a coin star machine. Every time a forgotten collection is spent by someone who doesn't know what they have. You might be wondering how to tell if yours is special. First, check the date. 1950. Then look under the date for the small d. No mint mark means Philadelphia. An S means San Francisco. The Denver version is the one collectors chase most aggressively in top condition. Next, look at the color. Is it bright orange red? Or chocolate brown? Original red surfaces are far more valuable, especially if they're even and free of spots. Now tilt it under light. Do you see cartwheel luster, that spinning shine effect that moves across the surface as you rotate the coin? That's a sign it may have never truly circulated. Examine Lincoln's cheek and jaw. Are they smooth and worn? Or sharp and textured? Check the weak lines on the reverse. Strong, crisp lines mean higher grade, and then, if you really want to go deeper, use a magnifying glass. Inspect the mint mark. Look for doubling. Look for anything unusual, cracks, chips, off-center strikes, because sometimes, the biggest discoveries happen when something looks slightly off. Collectors across America are still searching. Roll hunters buy boxes of pennies from banks, scanning thousands of coins a week. Most finds are common. But every now and then, a near-perfect 1950D surfaces bright, fiery, almost untouched by time, and when it does, the bidding wars begin again. The highest confirmed auction prices for top-graded 1950D wheat pennies have crossed into 5 figures. That's right. More than $10,000 for a coin that originally bought a piece of candy. Think about that transformation. 1 cent in 1950. $10,000 today. That's a return no stockbroker can ignore. But the story doesn't end in auction houses. It ends in your hands, because these coins were made for circulation. They were meant to move from person to person. And while many sit in collections, others are still out there. Mixed into jars. Hidden in drawers. Forgotten in old envelopes marked pennies. The next time you get change, don't just glance at it. Feel the weight. Listen to the sound. Look at the dates. If you see wheat stalks on the back instead of the Lincoln Memorial, pause, flip it over. If it says 1950 and there's a small d beneath the date, you might be holding a piece of history that collectors are still fighting over. And if it glows red under the light, if it looks almost untouched by time, you could be staring at a coin worth thousands. Treasure doesn't always come in gold bars or pirate chests. Sometimes it comes in copper. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes, it's worth far more than anyone ever imagined, so check your pockets. Check your jars. Check that old box in the attic, because the next life-changing discovery